There he is. Optimus, we're here to rescue you. Are you okay?
Gone! It's all gone. All of it's gone by my whoos here.
What happened to you?
1 minute you're defending the whole galaxy, then suddenly you find yourself sucking down Darjeeling with Marie Antoinette and your little sister.
I think you've had enough wine for today. Let's get you out of here, Prime.
Don't you get it? You see the hat? I am Mrs. Nesbit.
Snap out of it, Prime.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
What's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and happy holiday, Labor Day, folks, depending on where you are on the Great Blue Marble this week. You are enjoying a little bit of time off, or if depending on where you are, you're probably moving into college, university. Some of you may be starting high school or finishing it up. Who knows? Or you're just somewhere on your educational journey, or perhaps it is simply Monday. Anyway, I'm joined with my co-host from the lovely city of Saskatoon,
JT from Saskatoon, who has worked on so many weekends over the last 20 years that long weekends have no meaning for me.
I was about to say, yeah, it's just another, oh, well, I might get paid more, or maybe not.
Oh, look, the sun's in the sky. It's another day.
Yeah, good time. So yes, guys, we got a lot of stuff to cover this week. Although, first things first, I do have to apologize for last weekend. We did have a slight technical issue with the main TWIG show. Turns out I accidentally put the same review in the episode twice, and I don't really have an excuse for it. I was just really tired. I wasn't paying attention, and shit happened. So big thanks to Ken, who was able to catch that fairly early, and we were able to put out the fixed episode within just a couple of hours. Believe me, I am triple checking things today when I begin to edit the show. So this week is actually kind of exciting for me. I finally got everything all figured out for college. I will be going back starting on September 13th. I will be just finishing my last couple of compulsories. And then technically I can graduate, but I do have a couple of additional electives that I'm going to take just so I can round out my education a little bit more. Plus, I love to learn, so that's pretty exciting. Haven't heard back about my position that I applied for. I'm supposed to hear back soon, so we'll have to wait and see. Whatever happens. I hope it goes the way that I want, but if it doesn't, then you know what? I've still got this. I've still got more projects to go, and I'm perfectly okay with that. So for myself this week, kind of a quiet week in a lot of ways. I actually spent a lot of time grinding for stuff between me and Alex. We actually have an extended review coming up this week of The Last of Us Part 1 on the PlayStation 5. We also have an extended look at the Cowabunga collection on the PlayStation 5. And me and Alex recorded those on Friday, so they'll be out in the next couple of days if they're not out already by the time this episode comes out. I went to the park a couple of times this week. I played basketball at my local park nearby. My arms were so entirely sore I couldn't move them, which was a fantastic feeling. Got out a lot outside this week and just really kind of explored things. Went and played Pokemon Go with a bunch of local people here and tried out some new trails that I have never tried before. One of them I was really hesitant to try just due to the incline in my wheelchair. I was really worried I was going to slip back because it is a gravel hill, but it's fairly packed down. So I just decided to say, you know what, fuck it, and gave it a whirl. And luckily, my friend Jordan was there behind me to help me in case something went sideways. And it was awesome. I went up the hill, so now I've explored an entirely new trail system that I haven't had a chance to explore before. Got a chance to meet a bunch of new dogs this week, so that was really fun. And yeah, it's just been a really, really, really good week. It's been exhausting in terms of trying to keep everything all balanced out here for the show. I've been working with JT, working here with Ken to get things ready. Me and Aaron are going to be recording a final Future Imperfect where it's just me and him. We'll be talking about cryptid creatures later on in the week, so that'll be fun. So skinwalkers, aliens, maybe Bigfoot, who knows? Maybe stuff that you've never heard of. And then, yeah, so that's pretty much been my week. What about you, JT?
This first week has been, I don't forget if I've mentioned it on the show or on Funnies, but I recently took a step back from my full-time job at one liquor store here in Saskatoon and started working full-time at a different one. And the hours are a little different. The pace is, if my last job was NASCAR, this new job is the Shrinermobile. The pace is so much less than it was before. Like, I've been catching up on so much Netflix, it's not even funny. And yeah, doing stuff with Mike, you and trying to get a couple ideas ready. Maybe I've been toying with the idea of doing my own show outside of TWIG. I'm not it's not a betrayal, folks. I just, want to do something on the side to keep my skills, sharp. Working on some writing projects just to keep my mind sane and slightly less off kilter than it normally is. And something I suggest to make maybe for Future Imperfect with Aaron. I've started rewatching that old series, The Thunderbirds, like the marionette show about the family that has these super colossal like rescue construction vehicles to rescue like buildings that sink into the earth or people trapped in outer space. And it's, some that I've like that and Star Trek. I've been watching a lot of like really old TV series this week. I don't know, stuff that I watched in reruns growing up, because waiting for my modern shows to come back, and there isn't a lot of stuff in reruns from like modern series that I actively want to rewatch. Like, I half-heartedly started rewatching Arrow, and while I do love Arrow, it's, I've seen that it's a little too recent, so I'm going back to stuff that I literally have not seen in like a decade or more.
Yeah, I've been thinking about starting some new shows, but I'm also looking at the back catalog of stuff that's available on Netflix or Crave or wherever, and I just haven't had a chance to yet.
Yeah.
I keep thinking I should maybe get around to watching House of the Dragon. I see that the Amazon Lord of the Rings show's out, but Alex was talking to me about a show. You may probably find the humor in this. It's called Eastbound and Down with Danny McBride. He says it's really funny. So I'm thinking, you know what? I need to find something, but I also do want to catch up on shows like Arrow, Supergirl, and The Flash and all that stuff. But I'm also looking at how long those series ran. I'm like, Jesus, man, this is like Law and Order length here.
If you specifically the Arrowverse shows, if you just want to watch Arrow, the only series outside of that if there is a crossover like Crisis on Earth X or the Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I had so much hope for and it really shit the bed. That's just my opinion. Your opinion may vary, folks. Just watch those side, like those, find the right order to watch those episodes. So it's like Arrow, Flash, Legends, Supergirl, like whatever order that's in. Otherwise, it's like trying to read a long-running comic series and wanting to read all the side stories, and you will literally drive yourself nuts trying to figure out the correct order, as I have done several times in my life. So, yeah, it's... I mean, talk about rewatch a series. I felt the urge to rewatch Vampire Diaries because I love supernatural melodrama shows like that, and I don't want to pay for Peacock or HBO Max, however long that remains a thing, because it was all Vampire Diaries was pulled off of Netflix, and it's on those two services now. So I'm like, cool, I'll just wait till it comes back.
I was very curious about that show and True Blood and all that. And maybe at some point I'll take a look at those myself. But there's just so much television out there, or I'm so lost. I mean, hell, I'm still at like the middle season of Peter Capaldi's Doctor Who. I am years behind on stuff. Fuck, I haven't even seen Sandman yet.
Watch the first half of that series, and it is so good.
I'm looking forward to it. And since Audible gave me the books to review over the last couple of years, it's something I do want to check out. In fact, we actually should have an Audible review on something that they sent me a little while ago, hopefully in the next week or two. It's a podcast, but I'll be taking a listen to that. So folks, we have been rambling long enough. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're finally going to be talking about cryptocurrency, though not in the way you not necessarily think. We're going to be talking about an iconic movie prop that is sold for an astronomical amount, but we also have some reviews. Alex will be taking a look at a game called Soul Hackers 2. I will be looking at a role-playing game that I've been holding off on for just a little while, but I'm really glad I got a chance to look at it, and that is the G.I. Joe role-playing game. So we will indeed be fighting for freedom wherever there's trouble. And then finally, we'll be looking at the 4K Ultra HD release of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, coming to us from Paramount Home Entertainment. We got a lot of stuff coming up, but before we go anywhere, we're going to take a listen to Alex's review of Soul Hackers 2. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
Our friends over at Atlus sent a review copy of Soul Hackers 2. Now, our review copy was received for the PlayStation 5, but it is available on pretty much every other platform. And I did notice that the code it came with a code that works for PS4 as well. And I started out the game there just to see if there was any major differences. Maybe slight differences in load time, slight graphical improvements, ever so slightly when you're running or there's a lot of things on the screen, but there's not really anything in this game that taxes the PS4, let alone the PS5. And when it comes to importing it, you're able to import your save, and then it asks you to save a new PS5 copy of it. And if you had earned any trophies in the PS4 version, as soon as you save your PS5 version, it will pop all those trophies. So I guess there's a way, if you beat the game on the PS4 and then you import it on PS5, you could just platinum trophy it right away. So other games have done that in the past as well. But this is a sequel to what was originally a 1997 Saturn game that we didn't get here. And then eventually it had a PlayStation port that we also didn't get. And then finally it came here many, many, many years later in 2013 as Devil Summoner Soul Hackers on the 3DS. And now we're looking, another 9 years later, and we have a true sequel to that title. The gameplay, at first glance, looks like a hyper neon, stylistic Persona-ish look, but don't be fooled. It's not a Persona game per se. There are relationships with your characters, but there's not the focus is not on the interpersonal relationships of everybody. There's aspects of that in this game where you're uncovering people's memories and increasing your status with them helps overall with unlocking things, as well as getting a better understanding of characters, getting some trophies, but it's not as pivotal as it is in the Persona series. It is somewhere more in the line of like Tokyo Mirage Sessions, if you've played that. It's that style of game, and also about the same length. It's not an overly long game, which is good. It doesn't overstay its welcome at all. It has an issue that I've noticed with some other SMT games that aren't Persona, like the mainline series, in that you're trotting along, and then bam, the ending just sort of starts. You're like, whoa, I'm already at the end of the game. But it's not a bad thing. It's generally enjoyable all the way through. You have a hub world that you're connected to, that is just a town that you constantly go back to get more items and upgrades and extra side missions, which are usually just go into these dungeons and kill an enemy or collect so many items, and then you'll get more stuff. It's all about building your levels, because as you get farther in, it gets harder and harder. The enemies on easy or normal, and even to an extent hard, are not overly hard. It's just more grindy. There's some more sinister things that can happen when you play it on a harder difficulty, but for the most part, it's not an overly difficult SMT style game. It is, however, like the difficulty in this comes from the actual level layouts. It's pretty archaic. That's, if I had one gripe about this, because everything else is pretty good, is the dungeon design is nightmarish and really makes you feel like you're playing a Saturn game, in that it's long levels of mazes of dead ends and going back and fighting. There's ways to get around it, and it's never like very slow paced. It is a fast paced game, even in the turn-based battles, but it will harken back to the days of the PS1 and the Saturn. So be prepared. If you're a newbie, this is what games were like when they were, JRPGs were like when they had difficult puzzle dungeons. There are some head scratchers in this that I had to spend like 20 or 30 minutes just figuring out which portals to jump through in the right order so I don't get sent back to the beginning, that sort of stuff. Now, for a lot of people, they'll love that. Some people won't. The graphics are fantastic. The voice acting is pretty much permeates the entire game. There's a ton of voice acting here. There's little bits here and there that aren't, where they just have emotional inflections that they'll say like, oh, ha. But for the most part, like 90% of the game is voice acted and done quite well. The story I won't get into because it's a JRPG, other than to say that it's pretty... It's fine. It's nothing to really write home about. The story has interesting points. It makes a warning at the beginning saying that there's content in here that doesn't necessarily reflect the people that make the game. Please don't be upset. Different religions and different things, and there's triggering things that can happen in here because it deals with death, loss, and coming to grips with it, and other aspects that you come to know with the SMT series. But I didn't find it to be as egregious as the warning was. I guess the warning was just there for the sake of making sure they covered their bases. But the gameplay is solid. The battle system is great. It's probably one of the easiest compendiums of Digital Devils to collect that I've found. There's a slew of interesting characters and things to do in it. There isn't like a ton of post-game stuff except for the New Game Plus. I did do a full playthrough. Got pretty much everything. I'm missing 2 or 3 trophies, but they're like some of the more obscure ones I just have to repeat, like kill so many enemies doing this thing, that sort of thing. But for the most part, nothing in here is too difficult. It's a pretty fun jaunt through. Your playtime will vary, somewhere in the realm 20 to 50, 60 hours. It all depends on how you play and how good you are and what difficulty you're at. But it does have a lot to it that I think a lot of fans are going to like.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek News.
Hey guys, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I am Mike the Birdman. He's JT from Saskatoon. All right, folks, well, it's time to break down the things that happened around the planet Earth this past week. And, well, we're going to start with a sad story that is not entirely unexpected. TVline.com is reporting that the Goldbergs is killing off Jeff Garlin ahead of Season 10's quote, huge reboot. When the Goldbergs has found a solution for its Jeff Garlin problem, and it's a pretty permanent one. When the ABC comedy returns for season 10 on September 21st, viewers will learn that Garland's character, family patriarch Murray Goldberg, has been dead for several months. Garland exited the show last season following an investigation over multiple complaints of inappropriate conduct on set. Quote, the family is going to be a family that has not been able to reconcile the fact that their father's gone, but has sort of moved on and has dealt with a lot of that. Showrunner Alex Barlow tells EW, we're starting with optimism about Erica's baby coming and looking to the future. It's an opportunity for this interesting emotional basis for the way people are behaving. Barno adds that he has spoken with Garland, who is, quote, aware that he's not being replaced. He continues, the truth is, I don't know if he knows what his fate is, but I'm assuming he knows and would be the answer to that question. We haven't had a subsequent conversation since the beginning of writing that he would have any specific clarity on that. The loss of Murray, coupled with the excitement surrounding Erica's pregnancy, feels like, quote, a huge reboot for us. Co-showrunner Chris Bishop says, we have tons of momentum rolling into this new season. Okay, so I've got some thoughts on this, obviously.
As do I.
I know Adam Goldberg personally, and he left the show to do school, and he's doing some other kind of projects now, and it's obviously now in the hands of ABC and these new showrunners. And the show has changed a lot over the course of its 10 years. And in real life, Murray Goldberg did pass away. So it's not unprecedented for this moment to have happened. Although, that being said, I think the show ran out of steam a while ago. And I think the ending to the series should have been when Adam graduated high school. Maybe Erica finds out she's pregnant and maybe she marries Jeff. And maybe we get an epilogue where Adam's flipping through his yearbooks and maybe there's an adult actor playing him. Kind of like the Wonder Years sort of kind of treatment. And where he's like, and it was later that year I lost my father. But the beautiful thing about it is later we would be blessed with a new baby brother or sister from my sister Erica, who in real life, Erica is actually Eric and is actually a boy. So obviously they've changed some things. And I think it would have been a more poetic ending because when the show lost Pops, George Segal, when he actually passed away, you lost a lot of the chemistry in that show. And it just seems like they were shoehorning in, here's an 80s reference that is relevant because we could get Hall & Oates for a day of shooting or something. It hasn't been the same. And with Jeff Garland's behavior on set, obviously not cool. If people don't want to be called something, don't fucking do it, right? Like, just listen, don't be an asshole. And just walk, dude. It's like that. It's not that hard to not be an asshole. This became the Beverly Goldberg show a couple of years ago. And as much as I love that woman, she is funny as hell, amazing comedic timing. She steals the show whenever she's in a scene. But the problem is it's overshadowing everybody else. And I love Sean Gambrone as Adam, and every other character actor on that show is fantastic. The guy who plays Barry is really funny, and I really hope he gets to do something beyond just television. And the girl who plays what's the girlfriend's name again? B or something.
Sounds like, I honestly, like with this show, if I can just jump in here, like I watched part of the first season, really enjoyed it. Like, I mean, the whole the series name is Callback, I think applies to this, but because it's about Adam Goldberg going up, and it wasn't the first, it was the last couple of seasons, but that episode where they did the whole Highlander thing and they had Clancy Brown, and he says, there can be only one Highlander fan club, and I'm just like squeeing the whole time because it's Highlander and it's motherfucking Clancy Brown. I mean, this guy is unto a god to me in some respects. And I definitely want to go back because, we were talking about earlier about watching stuff that isn't available. And I mean, Goldberg's it's on the short list of stuff that I actively want to get into. That being said, it's not surprising that, in regards to how the show is based on Adam's life, that, Garland's leaving like this. And if not for the complaints, this might have happened anyhow.
Yeah. I mean,
but I just find this sort of topic, for me, it's difficult to talk about. Not that I'm like, it's very uncomfortable. It's very unfortunate because you look at, I forget what it was, The House of Hammer or whatever. There was that series where Frank Langella, who guys of our generation know as Lord Skeletor from Masters of the Universe, like the live action movie, and he was saying, inappropriate jokes that people are saying. Now, again, what some people say is inappropriate and inexcusable isn't the same for everyone else. I mean, it's really hard to comment on whether this was a good or a bad move on the show's part to remove Garland like this, because he told some off-color jokes and he touched. I mean, sometimes people touch me the wrong way where I'm at work and male or female coworker will, where somebody touches you in the small of your back, and a lot of people don't like being touched there. I mean, me specifically, I don't like it when people touch there unless I actively want that person to touch me, because I got picked on a lot in high school. It wasn't like I was groped or inappropriately touched like that. It's just, unwanted touches. It's a very primal thing.
Yeah.
So for people to, for these complaints to register and for them to write Garland out in this manner, I understand that, but at the same time, part of me is like, grow a thick skin, people, because a lot of times when this stuff comes up, especially in the last, it's scary to say, even in the last 2 or 3 years, where a lot of careers have been derailed and productions have been canceled or almost irreparably paused because some people didn't like what somebody said or somebody did. Again, I don't think this is a good or bad thing. It's not my place. Is it really as bad as people have said that what he said?
I would say this: if you are an actor and you are under the direction of a studio, a producer, a director, you show up and you do your job. When that director says, this is the behavior I expect on my set, if you cannot follow it, you are free to leave. That's how I would handle it personally. And it's not to say that everything we have said on this show over the course of the last 15 or so years has been the most appropriate thing. People grow, people change. But in regards to Garland, I know you're a comedian. I know you think you're being funny, but if you're making somebody uncomfortable and if they tell you stop, you're a professional. Do your job.
Yeah.
So,
but on the flip side of that, it's not always being unprofessional or inappropriate. Sometime, and without specifically pointing at anybody, sometimes it's these myopic, narrow-minded, I have seen pond scum with thicker skin than some people, that these are the people a lot of times that raise the most noise. And it's not always the most appropriate response. Sometimes it's just somebody who's crowing the loudest that, does this. I mean, you look at any of the situations like this over the last few years, like I said, like the Frank Langella situation, it's unfortunate, and it's not, it's when you talk about the story, there's your side, there's their side, and there's what actually happened. And no one ever really looks at what actually happened. But again, a situation like this, it's so easy to be biased one way or the other.
Yeah.
And that's honestly what's my biggest problem is, like, I have my opinions. I was like, was it really that bad? I might not think what he said or did was that bad, but unfortunately, I'm just the guy that pays my cable bill to watch a show.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Like, you're not this person who lodged the complaint. We weren't there on set, so we don't know. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, ultimately, I think the Goldbergs, I really want them to go out on top. I want Beverly Goldberg, Wendy, I can't pronounce her last name, Coven something or other. I think she's funny. I think she's tremendously talented. How she's not won some kind of an award for being on this show is beyond me, because I think
Yeah.
she's so astoundingly funny. And
Well-
some of the writing on that show, when it hits, is great, but that magic has not been around since Adam left. I feel like,
Yeah.
honestly, I think Schooled should have got one more season to wrap stuff up. That show had heart too. Was it derivative of the Goldbergs? Yes, but I felt it had legs. But not every Cheers spins off a Frasier. For every Frasier, there's a Tortelli's, or Joni Loves Chachi. So it's just kind of the way things are. So
Yeah.
moving
Also,
on.
that Nightmare on Elm Street episode, that was just mwah, chef's kiss.
Yeah, the fact that they got Robert to come back one more time, that's the persuasiveness of Adam Goldberg. So this is a story I wasn't originally going to cover, because me and Alex have this blanket statement on, if it's NFT or crypto bullshit, we won't cover it. But this, I'm going to borrow a phrase from Thanos, who's oddly enough coming up later in this show, I think, put a smile on my face. So this story comes courtesy of fortune.com. Trading volume on top NFT marketplace OpenSea down 99% in USD from May peak. On May 1st, the platform saw 2.7 billion in transactions. On Sunday, so last Sunday, the figure was 9.34 million. Has the NFT bubble popped? What was once a red hot market fueled by FOMO, which is fear of missing out, during the crypto bull market of 2021 is now just a trickle, with trading volume on the popular NFT marketplace OpenSea down 99% in just under 4 months. On May 1st, OpenSea processed a record 2.7 billion in NFT transactions, but on Sunday, the marketplace recorded just 9.34 million worth, according to data compiled by DApp Radar. The company recorded 24,000 users on Sunday, about a third fewer than when it hit its record transaction number in May. The massive decline in volume on the NFT marketplace has coincided with a nosedive in crypto prices. The most popular cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, has declined nearly 57% since the start of the year to $20,276. The second most popular cryptocurrency by market cap, Ethereum, has fallen 59% to $1,528 over the same period. As trading volumes and crypto prices have fallen during a downturn that's been dubbed the crypto winter, the floor prices of the most popular NFT collections, which indicate the lowest price that an NFT in the collection is selling for, have also plummeted. The floor price of the most popular NFT collection, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, fell 53% to 72.4 Ether, or about 110,000 as of Monday, from a high of 155.7 Ether on April 30th. According to CoinGecko, another popular NFT collection, CryptoPunks, is down 19% from its July peak. After this story was first published, a spokesperson for OpenSea said via email that the company disagreed with DApp Radar's methodology, noting that the 99% swing compared to the site's all-time high trading day was with one of its lowest. By the metric OpenSea prefers, Ethereum volume, which leaves out the effects of other cryptocurrencies' price fluctuations. Trading is still sharply down by that measure. Monthly volume fell 62% from May to July and is on track to decline further in August, according to crypto tracking platform Dune Analytics. And then I'm almost done this article. We're playing the long game, quote, because we see what's possible, so we're not that concerned about short-term volatility, the spokesperson said. We're always expected frothiness, hype, and deflation as the commodity and cases evolve. The tech gets more sophisticated and creators figure out how to build more utility into their projects. The crypto downturn has left many retail investors reeling, as a study from Paw Research Center last week found that 46% of Americans who put money into crypto said their investments had fallen short of their expectations. Although crypto has become increasingly prominent over the past year, Pew found that only 16% of U.S. adults had invested in crypto, and nearly the same number who said they invested it last September. Cryptocurrency is fucking stupid, because the blockchain is not as secure as you think it is. I know 3 people who have been involved in crypto. One guy I knew from college found his crypto wallet because he was using Bitcoin back in 2012 or something, and he found $96,000. Okay, so that's a success story. Another guy that I follow on Twitter, who's kind of like a Twitter friend, I would argue, started selling off all his crypto. He's like, I just want to buy something really stupid. Where can I exchange my cryptocurrency for tacos? Which is actually a thing. There are restaurants that do accept cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And then the final person that I know has said they have $20,000 in Ethereum. Now, that was as of last year. I would be very curious to know how much that is now. And they also have an NFT. What is the point when you can literally just right click or take a screenshot? We also saw crypto volatility this year when somebody stole Seth Green's Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT for that fucking short series he was going to do. And then at the MTV VMAs this past week, Snoop Dogg and Eminem did their Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT videos. And as Alex put it in our private producers chat, it looks like 3DS graphics or at the end of the PlayStation 3 era in PlayStation Home. Who the fuck cares if your ape has a different hat?
Yeah, I mean, 2 things spring to mind when like I haven't really paid attention to crypto, like barely more. I've paid attention more to crypto than NFTs, and even then, both of them, it's when I'm done masturbating, I've got something to show for it. But I mean, NFTs and crypto, it's the modern. Thank you again, social media and the internet, for ruining things. But this is the modern technological equivalent of collecting stamps. 1, 2. I didn't know, like, I think it was George Carlin said something to the effect of or it was a comedian anyhow, that said something to the effect of the only difference between cults and organized religion is one has a bigger support base. And I think that applies here, because none of this makes any, like, you have version 1, money, electronic money in the bank, physical cash in your wallet. And then you got crypto, which for every 5 crypto coins is worth $1, or however that fucking works. Like, it's just, it's an electronic house of cards that a magnet could wipe out. You could be billionaire and a magnet could wipe out your bank account.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because there is a guy, and I can't remember precisely where he's from. I want to say he's from England. He is proposing to dig up an entire garbage dump because he's missing a crypto wallet he lost several years ago on a hard drive that's worth like $500 million. And it's because he doesn't have the pass key or the code for it. That money's gone. And he would have to spend millions of dollars to get this back. Like, seriously. And the fact that the blockchain is not as online as you think, there are physical breaks in the blockchain where there are some security vulnerabilities. And we see countless examples, especially over the last year and a half, of what's known as rug pulls. There were people who gave up their crypto wallets because someone had hijacked high profile NFT curators. Like, I remember there was one with like Ozzy Osbourne, and they made off with like a shit ton of money. Someone had made money off the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and they were reselling like this really expensive NFT for like $200 and something thousand. Like, and it's vulnerable.
Yeah, and this whole thing about, NFTs and crypto, which kind of seem to be going hand in hand when you talk about them, brings to mind douchebag, weasel face, pharma bro Martin Shkreli from a few years ago. The asshole folks that took over a pharmacy company and jack pills that were like $5 a pop to like $700 a pop. Well, if they don't want to pay the money, they shouldn't get sick. Like that douche. So much so that this guy, they created an analog to him in a recent issue of Batman Urban Legends, where he's basically Martin Shkreli's got a analog in, I think it's Carmine Falcone's got this douchebag nephew who has like the CD of like an in-world version of the Wu-Tang Clan that he's trying to sell for like $1 billion a listen, because only the normal people don't deserve to listen to this music. And it's the same idea. It's like this, it's fucking is what it is. Like you think about beyond, like I said, your physical cash, your wallet, the stuff in your bank, what you get from a paycheck, beyond that, the most I would ever do is maybe the most extreme things. I don't mean actual extreme, just beyond earning my money week to week. I would look at investing or possibly buying or starting my own business. But beyond that, like, this is just, there's too much risk. It's not real. It's literally like crypto and NFTs just sound like such like a verbal agreement sort of thing. Like there's nothing really physical. And
this whole idea
stupid.
of non-fungible, like,
what
seriously,
the fuck does that mean?
I wish I could tell you. It's like you provide ownership, and then they tried to push it into the gaming space because Ubisoft had their own version of NFTs and crypto, but they were only available in Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which was the last game that came out. But you could only redeem it if you were on PC and only if you played like 600 hours. So, like, okay, that's insane.
And just kind of very tangentially to that, it's like when I saw Rise of Skywalker and the text crawl revealed the return of Palpatine, and I literally like almost physically shit myself in the theater when I saw them. What the fuck do you mean Palpatine? And then I looked into that, and you have to be playing Fortnite on a specific server on a specific day to have like that voice in the clouds like revealing the return of Palpatine. And it's like, that's the sort of logic at play here, is like, unless you're in the know and you have all this money to begin with, why would you even consider getting involved with something like this?
Yeah, like, it's not good optics. I think NFTs are dumb. Crypto, I think maybe as an idea could potentially have some stuff, but Web3 has not happened in a lot of spaces. I think it's a lot of tech investors trying to hype the marketplace into making people believe it's going to be a thing, but the vast majority of people just don't. Like, a lot of people are against the idea, and you're right, unless you can hold it in your hand, gold, silver, metal, stuff involving like oil and gas, like real investments, that stuff's going to matter as if you hold so much Ethereum or Atari cryptocurrency, which is a thing. Like, it's volatile. It can be wiped out if a company goes out. I can't remember the specifics of this, so I'm not going to go too in depth with it. Somebody owned a really expensive NASCAR NFT or something, and then the marketplace completely disintegrated and he lost it. So that money's fucking gone, and that thing that he paid for is now gone. Yeah. So
and the final thing I want to say on crypto is the only crypto I care about is Superman's dog, because he is the best boy.
I'm so glad you mentioned DC, because that leads right into our next story, which is also depressing as hell. So this story comes courtesy of superherohype.com. DC Fandom 2022 officially canceled by Warner Brothers Discovery. Warner Bros. Discovery's trigger-happy new CEO has struck again, this time bringing the hammer down on DC Fandom. According to Popverse, the virtual convention was launched in 2020 and returned for a second time last fall, will not be returning for another live stream later this year. DC released a new statement regarding the event's cancellation this year. With the return of in-person events, Warner Bros. Discovery is excited to be able to engage with our fans at numerous Comic-Cons around the world and will not be scheduling a DC Fandom for 2022. To be fair, this news isn't all that surprising. If another Fandom live stream were happening this year, WB would have announced it months in advance, given the studio's quote, strategic shift regarding the future of its DC slate. The studio likely wants to hold off on any promotional events until they have all their projects in row. Plus, if DC did have any new footage from one of its upcoming TV or film or TV projects to screen, they would have done so at Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con last month, alongside new trailers for Black Adam and Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Fandom was organized 2 years ago in the height of the COVID-19 outbreak, which famously canceled all in-person fan gatherings scheduled for 2020. Regardless, the flagship event proved to be a worthy alternative to the typical convention season, easily besting CCI's Comic-Con at-home festivities on the virtual stage. The original Fandom livestream featured several celebrity guests and gave fans a first look at the upcoming DC movies, including The Batman, The Suicide Squad, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Video games like Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League were also announced for the first time as well. It's a virtual event, and I think they could have put together a 3-hour live stream of something. Like, you could have shown off stuff for Gotham Knights. That comes out in literally just a little over 2 months. You could have had a fun cast sit down with The Flash, because that's got one more season left in it. You could have brought together some people from DC's Legends of Tomorrow to talk about their time on the show. You could have talked about the ending of the Arrowverse. Like, there's so much they could have done that you could literally just do via high quality Zoom cameras that wouldn't have taken anything up other than bandwidth and some people to throw together some promotional materials in Photoshop over the course of like a week. You could have and The Rock. Hey, can you talk about Black Adam with this person who's going to throw you softball questions for 15 minutes? Yeah, sure. Why not? Oh, and we're going to bring out a real life Crypto, the super. Fuck, promote DC Super Pets. That's out on like, to rent right now and to own, I'm pretty sure. Like, there's so much they could have done. Like, they could have done like, I'm pretty sure Robert Pattinson would have come out and said something about, you know, Batman and Matt Reeves. They could have had like literally a 30-minute roundtable where they're just talking about it, or get Zachary Levi. That guy's charming as hell. Here, talk about Shazam.
God, I mean, just when you talk about Zachary Levi, like, I know the show is over. It came to a satisfying conclusion, but I would love a limited run, like 9 episode Chuck sequel, because Chuck Bartowski is my boy. But the thing that always bothered me about DC Fandom, like the last couple of, like the first one, yeah, it made sense because 2020, height of the pandemic, gatherings, no bueno. So that made sense. And the idea of an online fan convention like that, in some respects, made sense. Now, honestly, in my head, and it's not a nice place to be some days, something like this, you know, if we had the technology from, like, have you ever seen Sword Art Online?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it involves a bunch of gamers playing an MMORPG wearing these helmets that, like, they're moving in like some sort of like game space on servers around the world, and the helmets keep their bodies from moving around so they don't hurt themselves. But it's the idea, it's this virtual reality helmet. If we had technology like that, you can go into a virtual, like a holodeck like expanse, and you could just go to the convention and see all this stuff. And, you know, that's when I think interactive online thing, because something like this is unless you actively have the most comfortable chair in the world, especially for folks like you, something like that might make more sense to go to a literally virtual landscape, because, you know, it's more entertaining to go to a con panel because you're surrounded by all these people and you could hear all these voices and that, versus sitting in front of your computer, you know, staring into the abyss, as it were, with your headphones on, you know, watching the Zoom call between James Gunn and like the Suicide Squad cast.
See, I didn't mind that, just because for me it was an accessibility thing. I mean, when I used to cover conventions, like Toronto's Fan Expo, when I used to go to PAX East and stuff like that. Yeah, it was fun being in those panel rooms. But let me tell you, what I don't miss is paying $20 for a piece of pizza. What I don't miss is paying $50 for parking. And I certainly don't miss waiting in line for a convention exclusive that's probably going to sell out in 20 minutes anyway, and I better have been there the night before. I mean, DC Fandom, I mean, they had exclusives that you could buy online, and the quantities were in more or less sufficient numbers, where if you were there early, you probably got it. Unlike Comic-Con, whenever Hasbro Pulse opens up pre-orders for something, yeah, you better have been camping at your computer the day before. I just have given up on con exclusives. I'm willing to pay scalper prices maybe once every 3 years for something. But to expand upon your idea of exploring VR, what they could have done is take a 3D camera, go to one of the Shazam sets or something, or Black Adam, because it's the most done project right now, and had a virtual set walk around.
Yeah.
You could have done that really easy.
Or you could add a link to a website. Now, there was, I can't remember the name of it, but I used to buy this music magazine that came on an interactive CD-ROM back in the very late 90s. And it would basically be a virtual, like you go and you hover and you see like this building is movie trailers, and you click on that and it'll go into like this kind of interactive, like kind of movie theater thing. You click on a poster to watch the trailer and such like that. You know, you could have something like that with QuickTime videos, or, you know, you click on the entrance to the movie theater and it has like, you know, you've got 2 minutes to till the show starts. Or you could, even if you had like multiple cameras at a virtual event, you can click on this seat here and you would have like that angle on the stage from that virtual seat or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of useless now to have this online in the way that they've been doing it the last couple of years, because, you know, we have in-person events are back. Like San Diego happened this year. And it's just, yeah, it just doesn't make sense to do something like that, because it was basically a stopgap measure until we could all come back together at conventions like this. And God forbid that another pandemic happens in our lifetime.
But say we're not out of this one yet.
But
I mean,
to the point that their governments and health organizations are telling, don't go near people.
Yeah, like it's a messy time. I mean, I think there's a way, because I think honestly, doing the online convention is a nice bonus, and I think it wins you goodwill with the community, because it provides more access to people. It's a more accessible press tool. One of the things that we used to have access to, we don't anymore, just since the DC Warner Brothers thing happened. I used to have access to this extensive DC press site that would go live around fandom, and it just stayed up for years. I guess 2 years at this point. Not anymore. More though. I could watch anything I wanted to. I could have access to whatever I wanted to. Like from a media standpoint, it was such a wonderful tool to have. But it allowed people like me who live in isolation or have accessibility issues with, you know, wheelchairs, to experience these things. And it's a little, this is probably more a me problem, and I'll probably catch hell for even saying that. It's a little ableist to lock it behind doors, but at the same time, people should be able to go out and enjoy these things. I just think fandom could have been added to their existing promotional budgets, and it could have been something that it didn't have to be a major production like Comic-Con, for example, because DC Fandom showed it can be done, and it can be done right, as long as everybody's on the same page. Well, but before we finish off this topic, I do have to share one thing on this. So this past weekend, I went to go see Spider-Man No Way Home More Fun Edition. And before the movie started, you get to see Toby, Andrew, and Tom Holland all talking before the movie. Jesus Christ, how hard is it to give these people 4K HD resolution cameras that they just have to shoot supplemental video? Like, they hire a local producer to come there, shoot the footage. They can still talk on Zoom so it's all synced up, but just have the videos look more presentable than this fucking HP laptop shit that they're filming off of. Like,
Yeah.
if you're going to do an event like DC Fandom, for the most part, it looked fantastic.
Yeah. And it's the last thing I would suggest. Now, you mentioned Zachary Levi earlier. He started this thing several years ago at Comic-Con called Nerd HQ, where he got, because he's fairly well connected amongst actors and such in the industry, and he would get guys like Stephen Amell, Elijah Wood, our Lord and Master Clark Gregg, Agent Phil Coulson, and they would have these smaller, kind of and more intimate panels where they would sit around. Alan Tudyk, Nathan Fillion were there quite often. They would sit around and have like these hour-long panels where fans could come up and ask questions, and they would talk amongst themselves. And it's very much what they do in Hall H, but it was on a more intimate setting. And he did this at Comic-Con. It was just, over to the side. DC could do something like this if they could make DC Fandom a YouTube channel. And there's I forget, there is this one channel, I don't know, it's Wired or something, where it's in New York City. They've got like that weird corner set like you see on like Good Morning America, where they go in and they'll have hour-long webcasts of interviews with shows or specific actors and all that, and it happens every so often. And they got live in studio audience happens for that, and it's very popular stuff online. And because I remember I watched one, was the creator of the Owl House, this Disney animated series that had one of the voice actors was Alex, was it Cross, who's like the creator of Gravity Falls, was a voice on there. So it had like the creator and Alex and a bunch of the voice cast. Wendy Melick was in there, who plays Eda the Owl Lady. Do something like that, DC, and you maintain your presence instead of doing this once a year in this big virtual space, at which you could also do. You could do this YouTube thing, and you just keep it present in our minds. Otherwise, like, I didn't even think about DC Fandom until I read this article, Mike.
I was kind of looking forward to it. I mean, like, I was really hoping that we'd see something, but to address the big elephant in the room, the pair of them, how could you do a DC Fandom with the Ezra Miller situation and with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing? You can't. It would be such a public relations nightmare. Every bit of coverage would be overshadowed by it. So I get why it was canceled. Obviously, for money reasons, it is the way it is. But from a public relations perspective, from marketing and crisis control, these are questions and optics you cannot avoid. So outright canceling it under the guise of this is Zaslav walking into a room with a friggin' Uzi, this just is kind of the way it is. So it is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So our final story today, this one's really kind of exciting because I love movie props. This one comes courtesy of comicbook.com. Star Wars Han Solo's blaster sells for over $1 million at auction.
Jesus!
I've heard certain things going for more. Movie memorabilia, particularly props, remain some of the most sought after items for fans and collectors. The more iconic the movie, the more valuable the prop. That certainly is the case for props and items from the Star Wars universe. According to TMZ via Comic Book Movie, the last surviving screen-used blaster used by Han Solo in Star Wars A New Hope has just sold at auction for more than $1 million. The prop sold by Rock Island Auction Company was initially estimated to sell for around $400,000, its final purchase price, more than double at $157,000.500. The blaster, officially referred to as the DL-44 Heavy Blaster, was one of 3 used during the filming of the first Star Wars movie and was noted above to be the last surviving model. The blaster was made from a Mauser C96 firearm, which is known as the broom handle, that was converted into a non-firing weapon for the film. The sale of the blaster was part of an event for collector firearms. Rock Island Collector Company, per their website, strictly specializes in the auctioning of antique and collector firearms and military items. Arguably the most iconic movie firearm of all time, the M41 Pulse Rifle, would like to have a word with you. It remains in fine overall condition and is converted into a non-firing for blanks only. The blaster's rating definition on the auction websites reads as follows. The description of the auction lot also notes the blaster came with a Han Solo photograph signed by Ford. The blaster is just the latest piece of Star Wars memorabilia to go up for auction for a considerable sum of money. Earlier this year, a vintage unopened VHS copy of Star Wars was put up for auction and had been expected to bring in around $60,000. The tape, a 1984 first release of Star Wars: A New Hope, has been rated MN08B by VHS DNA and includes a gray tape head, first edition stereo only red label, and a 1984 sleeve. First edition CBS Fox CBS Fox watermarks had previously sold for more than $57,000 at auction. Other VHS copies of the original Star Wars trilogy also included in that auction, expected to go between $10,000 and $20,000. I follow a lot of movie props online when it comes to auction stuff. And one movie prop house that I follow auctioned off a lot of Aliens stuff in the last year. And the Browning machine gun, which was converted into the smart gun from the movie Aliens, specifically Vasquez's gun, I think went for over $400,000. I know Ripley's flamethrower, the hero version that had the pilot light in it, it was non-functional, like it wouldn't throw flame units, but you could light the pilot light, but I think it was deactivated. I think that went for over $100,000, I want to say, and you could get the entire uniform of Private Frost. That include screen-worn armor, it was screen matched, and everything. And the real reason that I follow these things is sometimes you can find really good replicas. In fact, there's a guy over in England. If you want to make a set of Aliens Colonial Marine armor, he's the armorer. He will make it for you. But it is goddamn expensive, and you better believe you are waiting. For Christmas last year, my friend Liam, who played Oringo on our on our Stargate podcast, may he rest in peace. He's not dead, but his character's dead. He gave me a Gerber Mark II combat knife that was originally used in Vietnam. And you might be saying, well, how does this connect to movie stuff? That's the same knife that Bishop uses in Aliens when he's doing the knife trick with Hudson. And it's because of auctions like this we're able to identify what props are used, because we're getting screen used accuracy. So we're getting screenshots, we're getting high resolution photos, but also people like Adam Savage from the Mythbusters. He does a series on YouTube where he'll build his own version of this. I know he built a DL-44 a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And I've seen lightsabers. I know an original Luke ESB went up about 10 or 15 years ago. In fact, one weird story I have to Star Wars as a personal connection. If you remember when I was on Comic Book Men back in 2014, they had an expert on that show, Rob Bruce. Mm-hmm. And Rob Bruce was a curator and an expert in all things props and comic books. He's unfortunately since passed away. But I remember before filming started, we were talking about Star Wars props. And we were talking specifically about blasters and lightsabers, how many survived. Were they dueling ones? Were they hero ones? Were they resin ones? And it felt really cool to have an expert saying, hey, you really know your stuff. I'm thinking, well, yeah, this shit's awesome. Because it was actually thanks to Liam that I gained a really big appreciation for movie firearms. And I remembered when we were in high school, he gave me this giant dictionary of firearms from all around the world. And he showed me that Mauser machine pistol which I think is Italian, maybe German. I can't remember, but either way, it's nicknamed the Broom Handle, and that's Han Solo's blaster. And he's like, "That's what that is." And then he showed me what the Stormtrooper blasters are. In fact, in Return or in Empire Strikes Back, when Lando or Leia is firing back at the Stormtroopers, in some cuts, you can see the blanks firing out of the gun as the scene's kind of playing out. And I know one of the Stormtroopers' long guns, I think it's another Browning or maybe it's a Bar, which is a World War II gun, because when Star Wars was filmed over in Europe, they had a British armorer. So a lot of those guns are repurposed World War II guns, which is really awesome. So yeah, hi, I'm a dork.
No, really? No, I mean, you mentioned Adam Savage here. I love watching his Tested Maker channel. He's got a sub-series on that channel where he goes to this prop warehouse for a company that sells movie props. There was one he did a while ago where he's looking at the actual prop model for the Batwing from Batman 89. And you see like the little movable like shutter parts where the missiles slide out and the miniguns pop out, and you see the little Batman, like static Batman figure sitting there. And you know, like I trust his word on anything when it comes to props. I love watching stuff. But yeah, like I said when you first started, no, it's like I mean, yeah, people are gonna spend money, but Jesus, north of $1 million. That's like when that mint or near mint copy of Action Comics #1 went for, I think it's like $1 million or $2 million at Sotheby's auction house a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I mean, yeah, it's Action Comics #1. It's the first Superman comic. I would pay that money if I had it, but then I would have to deal with my mother bitching and complaining to me for the rest of my life for wasting money like that. That's besides the point.
I don't know, if I had ludicrous amounts of money, there are only 3 things I would really want, and they're probably all firearms, if I had to be quite honest with you.
Oh, gee, that's not telling at all.
Yeah, I would want RoboCop's gun from 1 to 3. I'm fine. I just want a functional Auto 9, because I think that's a fantastic gun that's based upon the Beretta 93R. I would love a functional, or at least hero version of the M41A pulse rifle from Aliens. And the third one's a toughie. A screen-used proton pack from Ghostbusters, although you can get some really good replicas that are about as close as you're going to get. I'm thinking here, maybe, and this actually got sold in the last couple years. I remember because I saw it on Facebook. Jason David Frank, I think, was selling one of the last screen-used Dragon Daggers. That would have been really cool.
Okay, that's on my list. I mean, if I had a top 3, the only screen-used prop weapon that I would want in my possession would be Connor McLeod's katana from the original Highlander.
Good choice. Good choice.
I mean, because there's this cutlery store at a mall here where, you know, you get all sorts of like really good, you know, kitchen knives, but they've got a shit ton. Like they've got like 3 or 4 different key blades from, and it just looking at it, it looks good, but it's probably, the guy said like it's made out of real metal, so they're heavier than hell, so they just sit in the wall. And they've got a replica Highlander blade there, but it just, the blade, I don't know if it's too shiny or what. It just doesn't look right. And the handle has got like the details on that dragon head handle have got like little, like the details are kind of painted in to give it more character. And I was like, well, that's not what the blade looks like in the movie. But the dragon dagger would be cool to just, hell, even have a ghost trap, if not a proton pack. And it's not it's not a prop that's ever been made, except it like Odin makes on YouTube, which is a great this dude that makes a whole lot of nerdy prop stuff. Well, he's got an entire series where he makes a Showa era, so the 1970s era Godzilla film version costume of Mechagodzilla.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And it's like fits him, and he's like a bigger dude like us. And it fits him, and he's got like the head with the lights, and it's like accurate to like the kind of studs on the nose and all that. I would love if they had made a Matrix, but not the one that Shia the Beef uses to bring Optimus back to life in Dark of the Moon, or I mean Revenge of the Fallen. I mean like the OG Megatron must be stopped no matter the cost. 86 Matrix.
There was a friend of mine I had when I was in college. I haven't spoken to him in years. His name is Sean, and he had a really good replica Matrix. And I don't remember who made it precisely, but it was pretty good. I have seen some really good fan ones. There was a guy on YouTube, I think his name is Man at Arms or something, or Forged in Fire, something like that. And he made the Assassin's Creed Hidden Blade from Assassin's Creed 4.
I remember that. Yeah,
that would be a cool thing.
Yeah, and that was the first version of Man at Arms, and then it went over to because that guy was based in LA, and then it went over to the brothers, was it Baltimore Knife and Sword? And then the younger brother and Ilya, who's like this master for who knows like old school, like packet in clay and straw forging kind of idea. They're doing their own thing now. I think it's called That Works. But yeah, I remember that one. He also made I think he forged the Sword of Omens, and that was back in 2011 because I believe Matt Mercer showed up because he voiced I think he voiced Tigra in that show, or it might have been the voice actor that did Tigra in that show if it wasn't actually Matt Mercer. I'm not sure, but yeah, that all sounds really, really like that's make you stupid money. Like I have my list of things I buy when I win make you stupid money. Like, and one of them involves buying the George Barris Adam West mobile, which will be in my garage.
The only things I have right now that are replica, I've got a couple of Nerf guns from Halo. I've got almost all the Boomco ones, which is cool, and they are not to scale, especially if you've seen the new Halo show on Paramount Plus. The one thing,
you mean that fan production that escaped into the wild.
The one thing that I did have commissioned and that I saved up for like a year, I have an ODST SOCOM that was 3D printed, and it looks amazing. And that's probably about as cool as I'm ever going. Like, you can do so much stuff with 3D printers now. It looks just as good if you get the right artist behind it. Like, there's a guy on Etsy who sells the Judge Dredd Lawgiver pistols, and they are fantastic. So if you don't have millions of dollars to spend on something that was held by Mark Hamill for 10 minutes, look on Etsy. Look on prop replica forums. You can find some of this stuff. And if you want to own like your own lightsaber hilt, there are tons of lightsaber makers out there, some arguably better than others. You can source original Graflex camera handles. You will pay a pretty penny, but it will be as authentic as possible, though people are kind of against those, but that's a whole thing in the prop community. I digress. You can do it. It can be done. So anyway, guys, we are going to take a break here on this extended edition of the Nerd News Network. We're going to come back with some of the weird news. We're going to take a listen to my review of an old 80s classic. This is the G.I. Joe role-playing game. And when we come back, we will find out what's better, red lasers or blue lasers. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
Crashing through the sky comes a fearful cry. Cobra! 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 Armies of the night, evil taking flight. Cobra! Cobra! Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Panic spreading far and wide. Who can turn the tide?
Yo, Joe, my friends, it is I, your game master, Mike the Birdman. And well, guys, it is that time of year. It is back to school. You might be thinking, well, what does that mean? Well, it is time to seek out your new role-playing game group. Because you know what? You've left your hometown. You've left a lot of your friends. And what better time to seek out a new group of dorks to hang out with than by introducing them to some fantastic new role-playing games. And today we got something really special. I've actually been holding off on this one for a little bit because I really wanted to get my thoughts succinctly put together. And I'm going to be talking about a product coming to us from Renegade Game Studios. We're talking about G.I. Joe, the role-playing game, the core book. 350 pages of, all things considered, a fairly good role-playing game. So what this is based upon is very similar to the Power Rangers game I took a look at earlier this year. And it's based upon the Essence 20 system, where you have strength, speed, smarts, and social. You then have skills underneath that, which then go in the skill shifts, going from D2 all the way up to D12. And then you can add some further specializations under that to give yourself a little bit of an edge in combat. So, as the name implies, this is G.I. Joe, a real American hero. And you might be saying, a role-playing game based upon a goofy cartoon from the 1980s and lesser successful series such as Sigma 6 and Renegades? Yes and no. This one is like, I would say this has more in common with the comic books that have come out from like Devil's Due Publishing, the IDW stuff, and any number of the licensees that have held this IP over the years. So a little less Cobra starting a band called Cold Slither, and more like, think G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, where they're dropping carbon rods on the planet. But you still get, all the characters like Dr. Mindbender, Major Blood, Tomax, and Zaymont, the Baroness, of course, Cobra Commander, and Destro. And it's pretty cool in a lot of ways. And in some ways, a real improvement over their Power Rangers game, because you're getting a lot more statted bad guys. I mean, Cobra has everything from your regular goofy guys in the blue uniforms all the way to like the Strato Vipers or the Bats or the Battle Android Troopers, which, by the way, is a fantastic G.I. Joe classified figure. Pick it up. But you're also getting, like, there's one, I think they're called Psi Vipers, but they're basically known as Nerd Vipers. So they're like the computer scientists, kind of like Dial Tone for the Joe side. And that's really cool. I'm glad to see a lot of these stats. I'm also really happy to see a lot of vehicles statted in this. Like, you get the Striker, very nice, which I think you can still buy in Walmarts right now. You get like the Ram, which is the motorcycle with the minigun. You get the Vamp, which for some reason I always thought was a Cobra vehicle, but I know there's like a Cobra variant. You're getting the Dragonfly, the Sky Striker. So if you were a child of the 1980s and 90s, these are things you probably owned at some point in your life. That's not to say that Cobra doesn't get some cool stuff. You get the iconic Hiss Tank, the Trouble Bubble. You get the Cobra Rattler, the Moray. Like, you're getting a lot of really, really cool, iconic vehicles. Though not all of them have pictures, so you'll probably have to go to, like, the G.I. Joe database to get an idea of what these things look like. Like, I would love to have the Cobra Pogo in this. But you could stat that yourself. And that's something to talk about. Vehicle creation in this game and vehicles are very important and obviously a very big part of the G.I. Joe IP, because this was a thing designed to sell toys. So if little Johnny had the Sky Striker, you better believe you better have the Cobra Rattler or the Night Raven to go along with that. Mechanically, the Essence 20, I really like it. It's just, it can get a little complex at times. It's going to take you a couple sessions to really kind of nail it down till you're like, okay, I have all these skills, I have perks, I can do this, that, and the other thing. And you're getting the most mechanically powerful rolls out of every combat encounter. It's a little less a little less D&D 5e and its own creature, which I definitely can appreciate because this feels very similar to Power Rangers. Like, there's a lot of stuff here where you can tell that's just this roll with the serial numbers kind of scratched off, but it feels like a weird hybrid between like Stargate and Power Rangers, I guess would be a good way to describe this. Like, this is military fantasy. Like, you're not getting like a hardcore military simulator. You're getting that power fantasy with like laser weapons and all this other goofy equipment, like Cover Girl's arrows and all that stuff. It's definitely its own thing, and I can appreciate that. If I did have one really negative thing to say, is there are no Joes statted in the book. You get tons of Cobra, but I hope there's a source book coming later that stats a bunch of these Joes. And I know certain Joes and Cobras couldn't be included for various reasons, and that is up to the publisher and the designer. It is what it is. I think you can download these guys from the website. Like, you can get some statted Joes and stuff like that, and even some additional Cobra people. I would be very shocked if there wasn't a community on Reddit for this, actually. So, do I like the G.I. Joe role-playing game? Mechanically, yes. I think once you get a couple of sessions in with you and your friends, it will be very, very, very cool. I like the fact that you can take a different approach to the game to deal with more interesting threats other than, like I said, Cobra is using a spray to destroy the world's money. But you could, like I said, you could totally steal things from the headlines today where they're maybe like manipulating oil prices, or they're destroying digital exchanges or something. You could really steal stuff and make it your own thing. I wish more locations were detailed. Like, you do get the pit, you get Cobra Island. I wanted the Terrordrome. I would love to have seen something for the USS Flag. Stuff like that. But again, these are source books you could very easily do down the road if you wanted to. And because Renegade Game Studios also has the IP to Transformers, I could very easily see crossover stuff coming with this. In fact, I assure you, within a week or two of the game coming out, someone's going to have the Megatron Hiss Tank crossover, or the Starscream Sky Striker, or when he turned into a Cobra Rattler in the Devil's Due stuff. Either way. But overall, I think it's a fantastic game. It's just got a really steep learning curve at times, but once you get the basics of it, it flows so fast, because it reminds me, like I said, a lot of Power Rangers, and I think a lot of things that were learned from Power Rangers are applied here. Building your own vehicles, like I said, someone build the Cobra Pogo and let me know, Mike at ThisWeekInGeek.net. I would love to see its stats. So anyway, guys, I am going to give this game a hearty recommend. If you can find a group of Cobra recruits or G.I. Joe recruits to help you either try to take over the world or defend freedom, I'm sure you can do something, folks. And remember, knowing is half the battle.
Fighting for freedom wherever there's trouble, we're letting the sea and Cobra! Retreat! Retreat! G.I. Joe! Hero! G.I. Joe is there! G.I. Joe!
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
And knowing is indeed half the battle. I'm Mike the Birdman. He is JT. Let's get going on what happened around the world this week that is strange, unusual, and more often than not, just plain fucked up. We're going to start with our first story coming to us from techspot.com. Ukrainian game studio defends raffle to put customized message on army artillery shell. A hot potato! You might know Ukrainian video game studio Frogwares from its Sherlock Holmes series and The Sinking City. It's currently attracting a lot of attention over a Kickstarter for its latest title featuring the fictional Victorian detective, but not for the reasons you might expect. To promote the campaign, Frogwares is running a raffle in which the winner will have a personalized message written on an artillery shell that will be fired at the invading Russian forces. The Kickstarter campaign for Sherlock Holmes The Awakened has more than tripled its $70,000 target. It currently stands at just over $237,000 with around 1 day to go. To give it a final push, Frogwares tweeted a promotion that's causing, well, some controversy. The studio is giving 3 random people who like and retweet its post the opportunity to have a custom message written on a 152mm howitzer artillery shell, which will be used by the Ukrainians' 24th separate assault battalion against the invading Russian forces. There's a couple of pictures. I'm not going to read the text. The messages can be anything, subject to the studio's approval, and winners will each get a photo of their message on the shell. A group of fans of the studio who are currently serving in the Ukrainian military reached out to our team to offer their help, states a press release about the promotion. An unidentified soldier says in the included video, "We look forward to sending these special deliveries to our unwanted guests." The Ukrainian military has been raising money by writing messages on artillery since the war began. Adding messages on munitions is a tradition that goes back a long way and especially popular during World War II, but the promotion is generating some pushback. That shell has a non-zero chance to land next to a civilian, and that's the unfortunate nature of our artillery. So go ahead, folks. Donate your money to write some cringe text on something that will kill some kid, wrote one user on Twitter. Another reply complained that this is a terrible idea. No matter who's right or wrong in this conflict, you're incentivizing gamers to be part of the violence. PC Gamer reports the Kickstarter does not allow the campaign that raised funds for causes or charities, nor does it allow projects that fall into the category of weapons, replicas of weapons, or weapons accessories. But as the new Sherlock Holmes game's title is just a game and the promotion isn't a part of the campaign itself, Kickstarter says none of its rules are being violated. Frogware says 4 of its team members are serving in the military and are currently deployed in the east of the country. Several employees are also members of various humanitarian aid groups in Poland and Ukraine. The studio said that while things have been more stable recently, working in a war-torn region is still difficult. Please understand we are a team that are literally in the center of this war, the studio said in a letter to PC Gamer. We have people on our team who've had their homes bombed into rubble. Some of us have lost relatives. Some of us are in occupied areas of Kherson where they are trying to annex the city. It is now a Russian city. We now have team members who lived in Bucha. We have team members who fled their home in Donbass in 2014 and then had to flee again in 2022. Others are actively fighting. Others have been forced to flee the countries around the EU and leave behind their families who couldn't come with them. We are angry. We are hurt. Our entire lives are thrown into hell because of Putin, who used the term Nazi as a dog whistle against our entire population and sent his troops in. Sherlock Holmes The Awakened is scheduled to arrive in February 2023, though Frogware notes the situation in Ukraine could see this release date change. Wow. That is a lot to take in.
Yeah, I mean, the silliness of, putting a message on the side of an artillery shell like that, and when I saw that, it's the first things that came to my mind were "Kiss it goodbye, Fritz."
Yeah, like I always think of like the weird, goofy World War II kind of messages.
Well, yeah, and bend over and kiss it goodbye, and this is a deep dive because I used to love watching Yakov Smirnoff as a kid. In Soviet Russia, artillery shell blasts you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, on one hand, I see the humor, but on the other hand, I see the very real humanitarian possibility that there's a chance this could actually harm a civilian. But then again, it's going against you're actually firing this at an invading army. And it's pretty clear the Russians are not on the right side of this conflict. And I'm not afraid to say that. It's just like, I don't know, guys, maybe not the coolest optics. I get what you're going for, but I don't know. Maybe.
And really, sorry, you finish, Mike.
I was about to say, I don't know how history is going to view this. I mean, not well. Yeah. I mean, this is a little bit of cringe. And like I said, I can see how this would be funny during peacetime, but there are bullets actively flying at this hour. So I don't know, guys. Not so cool on
Yeah.
my behalf. So
And realistically speaking, they might see the shell, but are they going to have time to read the message and or recognize what it says?
no, they're gonna get hit by this 152 millimeter howitzer and adios muchachos.
Yeah.
But
And that in of itself, what they're doing there is it. I think it's just trying to get some sort of,
traction.
I think, not traction. They're trying to generate some ill-advised, but some form of levity in this horrible situation.
It's just, it is what it is. So hopefully reason will prevail. Hopefully this war in Ukraine comes to an end sooner as opposed to later with a better outcome. We'll have to wait and see. Though this story is a little bit more heartwarming, so hopefully I'll read some good stuff from here on out. A police department allows parking tickets to be paid by cat food donations. What a fabulous idea. Wish more city police departments would take up this idea. This is just the best idea, so necessary, and teaches compassion to animals. This clever idea from Munry's police department is really meaningful to the cats at the shelter. The Munis Animal Care and Services Muncie, Indiana shelter is having a hard time keeping up with the cat population. There are currently 350 cats and kittens being reared there, and the number of feral cats brought here is continuing to rise. At this time, how do you say it again? Muncie Police Department decided to post a tweet on Twitter the news that the police were beginning to let persons with outstanding parking tickets contribute cat food to shelters rather than paying a fee surprised everyone. Additionally, they can provide kitty litter or paper towels and even provide some beds and blankets for the comfort of the shelter cats. Those who must pay a fine may also donate to a shelter or make arrangements for their donation to be picked up by the police in their area. Naturally, nobody is offended by this because they think the idea is awesome. Fortunately, there is enough money donated to take care of the kitties. Even though the cat donation drive only lasted a few days, it was a great success to help the animals at the shelter find their forever homes. The shelter has also extended an invitation for donations and adoptions. There are some pictures here. They got a lot of stuff. People are now complimenting the police and the shelter for working together so well. In addition, some of the commenters are suggesting that this strategy be used by other police agencies. This is a wonderful idea. And I know the police get a lot of bad raps, and we're not going to get into that political.
They're not all assholes.
Yeah, there are some good people. Like I said, I'm friends with one right now. We'll leave that at the door for right now. But
yeah,
the idea that, hey, you parked in a no parking zone, pay $75, or help little Dr. Wiley Jr. have a warm bed, kitty food, and kitty litter, that's a much better idea. That's showing compassion. That's empathy. I think for municipal infractions, if you're willing to contribute back into the community, as long as you're not like a serial offender, why the hell not? This is great. And this is great optics.
If you're the type of asshole who parks crossways across 3 spaces and they're all handicapped parking, you don't get this luxury. Obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it's, you got like 2 or 3 tickets that you haven't taken care of yet, and although I've had like 2 speeding tickets in my life, so I don't know how you forget about that. Parking tickets, whatnot. And just that one kitty, like the one's Waldo, and he's just like, feed me, Human, feed me. This is just warms the subcockles of my heart.
Honestly, I think this is great. This is honestly an idea I may bring up with Guelph at some point.
Also, whoever wrote this article needs to proofread better, because I could see like almost a dozen grammatical. It's like, just come on, people, do better.
Yes. So our final story this week comes courtesy of comicbook.com. People keep naming their kid Thanos. Believe it or not, but Thanos has transformed into a popular baby name since the character became a pop culture mainstay in 2018. In a new study published by organicbabyformula.com, Thanos has risen 2,892 spots in the Social Security Administration's name popularity index since Avengers Infinity War was released 4 years ago. Based on the aforementioned study, Thanos is the most popular baby name based on Disney-owned characters. Quill, after Guardians of the Galaxies, Peter Quill / Star-Lord reigns supreme, followed by Kristoff, Ray, Aladdin, Meridia, Belle, Simba, and Olaf. And then there's a huge chart. Some of the other names that are mentioned here are Flynn, Wanda, Leia, Valkyrie, Tiana, Esmeralda, Naveen, Loki, Aurora, and Kylo, Nala, Timon. God, I'd hate to be named after that. But just naming your kid Thanos is a thing. While most of the names in the study came from popular Star Wars and Disney animation, Wanda, Valkyrie, Sebastian, and Loki also happened to make the list. When we spoke with Jim Starlin earlier this month, the Marvel Comics icon and creator of the beloved cosmic character said the Mad Titan's popularity has taken him completely by surprise. I mean, all these strange esoteric characters that they would never touch because back when they started was strictly Batman, Spider-Man, the heroes, he said. And the fact that Thanos has gotten as big as he has, quite frankly, surprised the hell out of me because I always thought he was just too weird and esoteric and apparently wrong. And that's why I don't make movies. Thanos was the Marvel Cinematic's first true big bad and will soon be followed by Jonathan Majors' Kang the Conqueror. It comes down to the cast, and with Jonathan Majors, who I think took over Hall 8 stage, in 3 minutes he was up there. Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige told us, "It's amazing." I said to him, "There's nobody's shoulders I'd rather be putting the multiverse saga on than his." It's really impressive what Jonathan Majors is able to do and all the different incarnations and variants, if you will, of Kang that we will see him do. It's really pretty cool. He added, "What I love is that he's totally different from Thanos, that he is completely different, and that's not just that there's a big purple guy with a helmet. That's not what Kang is. Kang is a very different type of villain, and the fact that he has many, many different characters is what's most exciting and what most differentiates him." I would name a cat Thanos, but I'm not naming my fucking kid after the guy who murdered half the universe.
I don't know. I got a friend of mine who his brother-in-law somehow managed to convince my friend's little sister to give him the middle name Optimus.
Oh, wow. I know a kid named Riker. I know a kid named Agent, and I know a kid named Neo. So, hey, man, whatever works. I mean, honestly, if I had a kid, I'd love the name Arya. So I'm not immune to this. I mean, we're already talking when future animals come. I would name a cat Commander Shepard because, we have a doctor. So now we need some sort of a military strategist in the house. So, but I don't know, like a baby name, that's kind of forever, man. But
Well,
hey, if Optimus gets a parking ticket, he can pay for it in cat food. So
I should also mention my friend Doug here in Saskatoon. I think he may have actually convinced his wife to first name their son Optimus, which would have been, the name that stuck to me the most is underneath Naveen, because there was that dude, you'll never forget Naveen or Ravine. It's like some weird singer performer dude. He had this very ostentatious commercial. Some of these names, like, where's the love for Wong? Come on, Sorcerer Supreme. I mean, just come on, guys. I mean, you look at Flynn, that's Flynn Rider, Moana, Kylo. I could see Kylo as a cat. That's definitely a cat name.
But
Anakin.
a baby name? Actually, I do know a kid named Anakin. And this kid is like in his 20s. So I can say that. So that's one I just forgot about. Wow, we know some weird people.
I mean, growing up, what did I know? There was the most exotic name I knew outside of John, Josh, Mark, David, Dustin was Damien.
Yeah, I know a Damien. I knew a Vinny. That was a weird one. The coolest name I heard was a girl named Leisholia and Shona were some of the more interesting names that I've ever come across.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about names, like if I ever am lucky enough to fall in love and meet a woman, well, I was going to say something slightly more romantic. You know, meet a woman who's willing to deal with all this neuroses and mental bullshit. I would tell her, is like, look, well, whatever the middle name is cool, but his first name is going to be Patrick after my dad. And
Fair enough.
You know, if I get a bulldog, also named in honor of my dad, it would be Moose, because that was his nickname. And if my dad had a spirit animal, it would be a fucking bulldog. So I'm just saying.
When I was with the former girlfriend about 20 years ago, she wanted to get a pair of Rottweilers. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. As long as they can be named Vader and Maul, I'm totally fine with this. So anyway, folks, that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News Network. And we're going to take off to the Green Hills right here on the show. We're going to take a look at Sonic 2 from Paramount Home Entertainment. We will be back, guys, right after this to close out the show and tell you what is coming up on the site this month and potentially this week. So we'll be back, guys, right after this.
Pitiful.
What? Who are you? Where are my manners? Sonic, meet Knuckles, my new BFFAE, bestest friend forever and ever.
Look, Robotnik, I don't care who you brought to help you. You're never going to get my power.
Do I look like I need your power?
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk to you about one of the latest releases on 4K Ultra HD, along with a digital code coming to us from Paramount Home Entertainment. I'm talking about Sonic the Hedgehog 2, a smash hit follow-up to the original Sonic that came out a couple of years ago. This was one of the movies I didn't expect to be as good as it did. Knuckles is one of my favorite characters in the Sonic franchise. Tails is my favorite character in the Sonic franchise. What can I say? I've always been in the Foxes. And it's fantastic. This movie picks up not too long after the first movie. Sonic's starting to figure out what he wants to do. Is he a superhero? But of course, then he has to contend with Dr. Eggman, Robotnik, as he's found his way off of the Mushroom Planet, and he wants revenge. And he's not alone, as he's joined by the Echidna warrior known as Knuckles. And it involves the mythical Master Emerald, or the Chaos Emeralds, if you happen to follow the video games or the comics. And, well, quote-unquote, hilarity ensues. It is a fantastically fun movie for kids. It's got a lot of fun stuff for adults. Jim Carrey steals every single scene that he is in. Having Ben Schwartz back as Sonic, I gotta say, he's grown on me more than Jaleel White did with Sonic AM. And that's a pretty bold statement. They brought back the voice of Tails from the video games, Colleen O'Shaughnessy. Idris Elba plays Knuckles. And you get a fantastic supporting cast with James Marsden as Donut Lord, or the Pastry King, he gets called at one point. And it's a fantastic adventure, and there's a lot of fan service here. I mean, there's even like a Genesis manual in one scene. Like, it's a blink and you'll miss it. But I think there's like a Pantera track that they play for just a couple of seconds with Robotnik, and I really would wonder if that was Jim Carrey just horsing around. Would not surprise me. So to talk about the 4K Ultra HD disc itself, everything is contained on one disc. Thank you for doing this. Now, unfortunately, none of the special features are longer than 10 minutes, if I recall correctly. There's a bunch of deleted scenes and bloopers. The bloopers, they're not bad. Deleted scenes don't really add a whole lot. There's a reason why they're on the cutting room floor. And there's like just a bunch of like EPK press stuff saying, hey, here's Edris talking about Knuckles. Here's Colleen talking about Tails. Here's, I'd say the dumbest one is where they have Ben Schwartz just answer like rapid fire questions like, hey, what do you prefer? Fast or strong? Red or blue? It's goofy, but okay, yeah, sure. There's kind of like a making of with like director, I think his name is Jeff Fowler, if I'm not mistaken. There's a music video, and you can still see the scenes. There is a director commentary, and there is a small animated short, and the only voice who returns from the movie is Ben Schwartz. And I was hoping it would be Edris and Colleen, but it's Fred Tiscori, who is like, he's played Megatron, he's been in Mass Effect. I think that's Saren, actually, from Mass Effect 1. And, okay, it's a cute little short, and because I'm a slam poet myself, it's funny, and I'm gonna leave that up to your imagination. Ultimately, Sonic 2 is a fantastic movie. It takes what made the original so good and elevates it to a different level, and stay during the credits. There is a post-credit scene. I'm really curious to know how they're going to handle this new character. I would have preferred a different character, but you know what? I'm in for this. I'm curious how you'll pull off this early 2000s emo as hell grunge rock thing, but hey, party on, I guess. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, in my opinion, is a winner. It's worth it alone for Ben Schwartz and Jim Carrey. Everybody else puts in a fantastic performance. I'm looking forward to seeing what Paramount does with the Sonic franchise moving forward. And I honestly think the series is in fantastic hands. So, gotta go fast, gotta go get me some chili dogs. And that has been my review of Sonic 2, coming to us from Paramount Home Entertainment.
Knuckles isn't really a bad guy. He's just a little mixed up.
I am not mixed up. I have steely focus, and I'm complex. And that's a lot for some people.
Hope you're not still mad I hit you with that car.
I was completely uninjured, and my revenge will come when you least expect it, Fox.
All right, guys. Well, that has been the show for you for this Labor Day weekend. If you happen to live in North America, if you're in the rest of the world, well, the sun rose today. I don't know what else you want out of it. But if you happen to be starting school this week, I want you to go out there and make some new friends. Try something new. Do something different. Feel free to use the school resources that are available to you. That's why they are there. As a former resident advisor, go out, meet some new people. Do something exciting. But if you don't feel comfortable, that's okay too. But hey, who knows? Maybe you'll find some people to play the G.I. Joe role-playing game with you. Who's to say? I got a lot of role-playing games coming up this month, folks. One way or another, you're throwing damn dice. Coming up on the site this week, I know me and Aaron are going to be working on a show for Future where we talk about cryptids. So that's stuff like Skinwalker, Sasquatch, the Mothman, all sorts of weird stuff that you may...
Chupacabra.
Yeah, the El Chupacabra. We're going to talk about this type of stuff on Future Imperfect. Alex will be coming back to the show for next TWIG main show. We should be doing more Turd or Treasures as our review bins are starting to fill up because Holiday Gift Guide is, oh my God, it's just around the corner. So we have to worry about that. But we also have 2 prototypes coming out really soon. If not, they're already out by now. We have The Last of Us looking at the PlayStation 5. We're going to be talking about the TMNT Cowabunga collection, which collects the NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, and Game Boy games onto one collection, along with a buttload of archival material, which is really worth the price of admission alone. We're going to be doing more loose cannons. We're going to be doing more Future Imperfects. I intend to marathon Strange New Worlds this week before school starts. Yeah, there's just a lot of really good stuff. And I know we're going to be doing something on, I think we did our breakdown of season 2 of Picard. We're going to be doing Lower Decks whenever that ends. Me and Alex are going to be taking an extended look at the Star Trek 6 movie collection, which just came out on 4K with some new special features. So we'll be talking about those movies in the next little bit. So big thanks to Paramount for saying that to us. I will be looking at some Dungeons and Dragons products. I have Agents of Dune. I have a Doctor Who version of D&D called Doctors and Daleks. I'll be taking a look at. I'm hoping to get my hands on the Transformers role-playing game at some time in the future. And yeah, we just have so much stuff. I've got Aliens. I've got the One Ring. Get your wallets ready, folks, because it's about to be funded.
Wasn't there a Transformers campaign on Terrible Warriors back in the day?
There was once upon a time when Big Mike was running it. I can't remember what system he ran it under. I can tell you, though, that they're doing video game Expendables at some point really soon. So if you want to look up D20 Live up on YouTube, they're still continuing to do that project.
The only thing I'm going to tell you about marathoning Stranger Things, Mike's, no more than 3, like you got you gotta budget your time. 3 episodes at a chunk. I mean, the seasons are like, 8-10 episodes. It's better to break it up than burnout.
Do you mean Strange New Worlds or Stranger Things?
I thought you said Stranger Things.
I thought I said Strange New Worlds. Maybe I said Stranger Things by accident.
Same logic applies. 2 to 3 episodes at a time, because again, with marathoning anything, you got to take a break.
Yeah, exactly.
In between.
So hopefully I'll be watching a lot of stuff on streaming this week before I go back to school. I'm sure my Twitter will be filled with more nonsense. If you want to follow me on TikTok, I'm always saying something, though I took a break for a week. I'm coming back strong. So yeah, we will wait and see what happens from here on out. But big thanks to Ken, JT, and Aaron, who filled in this summer to give Alex a little bit of a break. I could not be more thankful. So JT, thank you so much, man.
Always, man. Always.
All right, so until next time for ThisWeekInGeek.net, we have been
JT from Saskatoon.
I've been Mike the Birdman saying enjoy school, enjoy your work week coming up, but most importantly, take this into every single day. Be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.